Welcome back, deep divers. Today we're going deep, really deep, with Inamori Kazuo.
Inamori Kazuo, the Japanese entrepreneur, philosopher, the business legend, right?
Exactly. We're diving into his advice, well, actually answers, to questions from business leaders, people just like you.
So real questions, real challenges, straight from the source.
No fluff, just pure Inamori wisdom. We're going to be focusing on his insights into managing small and medium enterprises.
His bread and butter, he really knew how to make businesses thrive.
All right, first up, this section, judgment, purpose, and the essence of leadership. This is where Inamori really sets the tone.
Yeah, he gets right to it, doesn't he? Business decisions, he says. They shouldn't be based on gut feeling or, just because you like somebody.
No playing favorites. Inamori's all about a more disciplined approach, you could say.
Almost stoic, right? Like unwavering in your principles.
Yeah.
And he contrasts this with, he talks about this CEO he calls blurry. The CEO wants to be liked so he doesn't set high standards.
We've all seen that, haven't we?
Oh, yeah. So common. But Inamori, he built Kyocera, a global giant, on a different foundation. He talks about having a clear coordinate axis.
A coordinate axis. That sounds a bit, well, technical. What exactly does he mean by that?
It's like, think of it like your moral compass in the business world, a set of principles, your values that guide every single decision.
Okay, starting to get it. So it's not just about making a profit, but how you make that profit.
Absolutely. For Inamori, this coordinate axis is rooted in, he believed in the inherent goodness of people, the idea that we're drawn towards truth and goodness, even beauty.
So how do you actually figure out your own coordinate axis? Is it like writing a list of rules?
It could be, but it's more than that. It's about asking those tough questions. What do I believe in? What kind of impact do I want my business to have?
It's less about a checklist and more about a mindset then.
You got it. Aligning your actions with your deep values. And that's where judgment comes in. Not letting emotions drive the bus, but really understanding your goals.
And sometimes that means making tough choices. Inamori says leadership isn't a popularity contest.
Nope. Sometimes the right decision for the business, well, it might ruffle some feathers.
But in the long run, that commitment to principles, that's what builds trust, right?
And respect. A leader with a strong coordinate axis, they might seem strict, even demanding, but that consistency, that's powerful.
So if you're facing a tough call, dear listener, maybe ask yourself, what would someone with a truly strong coordinate axis do here?
That's a good question to ask, because Inamori's approach, it's not just about profits, it's about building something with meaning, something you're proud of.
And that sets the stage nicely for what's coming next.
Oh, yeah, things are about to get exciting. Buckle up.
Because in the next section, we're tackling growth. We're talking about scaling up, tackling growth, profitability, and the illusion of easy money. So stay with us. Okay, deep divers, ready to tackle part 2. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of Inamori's philosophy.
Yeah, we're moving from those big picture ideas into the practical stuff, how to actually motivate your team.
And he starts by acknowledging, it's not always easy, especially in industries that, well, aren't seen as super glamorous.
He even tells this story about a construction company. The owner is struggling, like really struggling to motivate his paint crew. It's like the classic example of what they call in Japan a 3K industry. Dirty, dangerous, demanding, not exactly the stuff of motivational posters, right?
Not really. So how do you, inspire people in those kinds of jobs? What's Inamori's secret?
Well, he says you got to shift your own mindset first. You, as the leader, have to believe in the value of that work, even if it doesn't seem flashy.
Easier said than done, maybe.
True, but he goes back to the construction example. He tells the owner, remind your crew, they're not just slapping on paint, they're protecting that building, making it last longer, keeping people safe. It's about the bigger picture.
So reframing the work, showing the impact.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just words, too. It's about the culture you create, respecting everyone's contribution, no matter what their job is.
Showing appreciation, even for the stuff that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah. So, listener, think about your own team for a second. Do you acknowledge everyone? Do they see how their work makes a difference?
Because everyone wants to feel like they're part of something bigger, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Inamori also talks about this tricky balance between experience and qualifications. He brings up this engineering firm. The leader there is obsessed with everyone getting certified, having those credentials. But the experienced staff, they're pushing back.
Well, I can see both sides, honestly. Qualifications matter. But experience counts for a lot, too.
Inamori gets that. He uses this great analogy, calls it a human stone wall. A strong team, he says, it needs different kinds of stones, not just those perfectly shaped, certified ones. You need the rough edges, the different textures to make it really strong.
So valuing loyalty, hard work, all that good stuff, alongside the fancy degrees.
Exactly. He says, look at the person, their character, how they work, their willingness to learn. That's gold.
So many talented people get overlooked because they don't have a certain piece of paper. But they might be the absolute backbone of the team.
I think that's huge for listeners to really get that. Don't get so caught up in the qualifications that you miss the human element.
Look for passion, the right fit, the willingness to grow.
And nurture the talent you already have, invest in their development, help them build their skills, even if it's not, the traditional path.
Because when people feel valued, that's when they shine.
It all comes back to that. Inamori's approach, it's not about tricks or shortcuts. It's about building a culture of respect, showing your team the bigger picture.
It's about tapping into that intrinsic motivation, that sense of purpose.
Right. And as leaders, we got to create the environment for that to flourish.
This has been so insightful. Inamori's ideas, they really make you think differently about leadership.
It's both practical and, philosophical at the same time. I think anyone can learn from this, no matter what size their business is.
But hold on, we're not quite done. There's one more part to this deep dive. We'll be bringing it all together, looking at how you, our listener, can put Inamori's wisdom into action. So stick with us.
Wow, Inamori Kazuo. He really gave us a lot to think about, huh?
He did. From that coordinate axis, remember that, to growth, to keeping your team fired up. There's just so much there.
It's all connected, too, isn't it? It's not just like random business tips. It's a whole philosophy.
Oh, yeah, a way of thinking about business that's, it's smart, but it's also ethical. But now, the big question for our listeners, right? What do they do with all this?
How do they actually take Inamori's wisdom and make it work for them?
All right, how do you apply it to your own business?
So if you had to pick, the one most important thing from all of this.
I'd say, hands down, it's got to be that coordinate axis. Figuring that out for yourself.
That internal compass, those guiding principles? Exactly. Like Inamori said, you got to really think about it. What do you stand for? What kind of company do you want to build? What impact do you want to have?
It's bigger than just, hitting sales targets. It's about purpose.
Yeah, aligning your business with something you really believe in. And once you have that, it makes those tough decisions easier, Hiring, pricing, even when to grow, all of it flows from that.
But knowing your principles is one thing. Actually living them, that's the real test, isn't it?
That's where Inamori's idea of judgment comes in. Not getting swept up in the moment, but really thinking things through. What are the facts? What are the consequences? What's the right thing to do, even if it's hard?
Being principled and practical, both at the same time.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's worth it. And, even Inamori, he was always learning, always trying to get better. He didn't have it all figured out from the start.
That's encouraging to hear. It's a process, right? You keep learning and growing as you go.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to try stuff out. Experiment. Step outside your comfort zone a little. But always, always keep that coordinate axis in mind. It's your anchor. It keeps you grounded.
Speaking of grounding, we got to talk about the people. Inamori, he was big on building a strong team, creating that culture of respect. What really stuck with you about that part of his philosophy?
You know what it is? It's the idea that leadership isn't about being the boss. It's about empowering people, creating an environment where they can, thrive.
Where they feel valued, respected, and like they're part of something bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing their strengths, giving them opportunities to grow, making it okay to share ideas. That's how you build that human stone wall Inamori talked about. A strong team that can handle anything.
That's a great image. So to wrap up our deep dive with Inamori Kazuo, I want to leave our listeners with this. Think about those little things in your business. Could you be applying Inamori's ideas there? Could your coordinate axis be stronger? Are you making decisions with real judgment? Is your team as engaged as it could be?
Big questions, right? But Inamori is all about those little consistent improvements day after day. That's what adds up.
It's about doing business the right way, with integrity, with purpose, and with respect for your team. So go out there, deep divers, and build something amazing. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.